Springtime is baby chick season, and like any good stewards of chicken math, we are going to get some more chicks next week. So I thought today would be a good time to pull out the brooder, show you guys what we do for our brooder, and go into some details about what exactly a brooder is and what's needed. Let's get into it. So our favorite brooder that we use is a plastic tote. You can find these at any hardware store, Walmart, anywhere. And what we do is just get the biggest one we can find so that you can have the most chicks in there. And the reason that we go with a plastic tote is because it's multi-purpose. So as you can see, when there's not chicks in there, it's perfect for storage of all the chick supplies. And then when their chicks are in there, it's nice because you can see them through the sides. And it's easy to clean being plastic. It's easy to wipe down, spray out, and clean it up. Now, you may be wondering, how in the world could chicks live in a plastic tote? And so here's where the secret comes in. Ventilation. So this is what we did. It's a great idea. All you gotta do is cut out a section of the lid in order to give the chicks some ventilation. And the way that works is we just cut out a section, and then you just get some screws and some washers and some hardware cloth, cover that up, and that keeps, one, the chicks from jumping out, and two, if you have any inside animals like we do with our cats, it keeps the cats and the dogs from being able to stick their heads or their whole bodies down in there with the chicks. Now, something really important is if you're getting screws to secure the hardware cloth, you want to make sure that you don't get screws with a pointed end. You can see all of these are all flat because the chicks are going to be jumping up there and you don't want them to scrape their heads or bump their heads or anything, and keep them nice and safe because they start off really tiny and small and not moving a lot, but it doesn't take long before they're jumping and flying up there. And so one of the things that we thought was a great idea is when you cut out the section of the roof, keep it. So that way, when you're using the tote for storage, if you don't keep the plastic center, it's not a big deal because you have the hardware cloth, which keeps a solid roof. However, if you keep the plastic that you cut out, fits right back in. And now if you store it in a garage like we do, it can get pretty dusty, but we have the roof, so it keeps all the dust from falling in there. And it's super easy to just pop it back out and pop it back on when you need it. So, what is a brooder? Essentially, when baby chicks are just hatched, they need a nice, safe place to live. And they only require a couple things. That's gonna be food, water, and heat. So a brooder is any sort of container or structure that you want your baby chicks to live in. In this case, it's this plastic tote, and like I mentioned, it's good for storage and it has all the chick supplies inside. So we have our feeder right here. It's a nice small size for the chicks to be able to stick their heads in there and get the feed out. And we have our water right here. Again, nice small water to fit inside this tote. We have bigger ones as they get bigger, but we really like this water a lot because it has legs. So as the chicks get bigger, you can raise it up and use the legs to make it taller so that it makes it harder to kick shavings or whatever bedding that you put in here into the water. And so that's their food and water. That's all you need for them. And then the last thing is a heat source. So you have the option to do either a heat bulb, which is basically like a really warm lamp that you'll stick above the brooder. It radiates heat down, keeps the chicks warm. Or you have an option to go with a brooder plate, which that's what we use. And so the reason we like the brooder plate is, one, it's safer because the heat bulbs just generate a lot of heat and can cause fire if it slips or burns or cracks or breaks. And then also with the brooder plate, one, it's less risk of fire. Two, it actually uses less energy than a heat bulb. So if you're concerned about energy usage, that could be a nice tip for you. It just plugs into the wall and it's very efficient. It uses less power than a heat bulb. So although it is more expensive off the original purchase, you can actually, in the long run, probably save money from the power usage that you're, the difference between a bulb and the heat plate. And then the third thing, which is a really big selling point for us, it mimics more naturally a mother-hen and chick relationship, meaning that a heat bulb is just going to heat the entire area, and the chicks can move out from the heat, but it's still a heat gradient. So it's going to be really strong in the middle, and then as they move out, it's still warm, but they can't really ever get out of the heat in the smaller brooder. As opposed to the heat plate, where the chicks just go underneath, they get warm, and when they're warm enough, they pop back out, and then there's no heat at all. So this mimics a mother hen in nature. The chicks would just be going underneath her, getting warm, and then they're going out and exploring, and they have no heat at all. And so it mimics the natural instincts of a chick, and as if they had a mother hen that they're sitting underneath. And then in turn, since they're going from an area of all heat to no heat, it actually helps the chicks feather out faster and grow their feathers in quicker, because they're getting more used to heat and no heat versus getting heat on all the time. So it's a really great option, but again, totally up to you if you go with a heat plate or a brooder plate. And then these others are just some odds and ends in here. Like I said, we have a bigger feeder and water. When we move them to our bigger brooder, we have some nice roosts for them to play on. We have a bag of chick grit and all kinds, and this is actually our bigger brooder, which we are gonna pull out in a couple weeks when they get a little bit bigger. I like to keep them in smaller areas so that there's less to explore and get into, and any problems when they're younger. And then when they get a little bit more active and they start going crazy in here, we put them in a bigger brooder. So it's probably about 2 to 3 weeks is what we usually do. And yeah, so like I said, next week we are getting chicks. It's very exciting. This is going to be our first batch of bantams. So it's going to be a new experience for us, but next week's video we'll be going to get them, and then after that we'll raise them up together and keep everybody in the loop. But if you have any questions about the brooder or about different setups, drop it below. Be happy to answer it. Thank you for watching, and until next time, stay Pyrfect.